The faint hum of the airport echoed off the polished glass walls as Donovan Chase approached Gate 47B. It was almost midnight, and most travelers moved with the weary shuffle of delayed connections and long itineraries. But Donovan didn't walk like the rest. His stride was precise, his posture composed. Dressed in a tailored navy blazer that hugged his athletic frame and a crisp white shirt open at the collar, he blended in seamlessly with the late-night business-class crowd. He didn't wear flash, but those who noticed him paused. There was something about the way he carried himself, a quiet command that didn't ask for attention but received it anyway. Donovan stopped at the entrance of the gate, glanced up at the boarding screen for Polaris Air Flight 227 to New York, and gave a subtle nod before moving forward. The gate agent scanned his ticket with a routine beep, but her eyes lingered on the name for a split second longer than necessary. "Have a pleasant flight, Mr. Chase," she said, her voice slightly more deliberate now. "Thank you," Donovan replied with a polite smile, his tone cordial but unreadable. He wasn't here for recognition. He had never needed that. Only respect. As he entered the first-class cabin, a soft amber light washed over the plush leather seating in hues of cream and tan. Each seat came with its own privacy divider and console. He located 1C on the left side, a window seat, his preference. He placed his leather briefcase in the overhead bin, slid his well-worn notebook into the seat pocket, and lowered himself with a slow, composed breath. Outside the oval window, the tarmac bustled. Safety vests glowed beneath harsh lighting while service trucks moved in deliberate patterns. Inside, passengers shuffled to their seats, murmuring quietly. Donovan leaned back and opened his notebook, filled with handwritten plans, merger projections, equity models, leadership memos. Every mark was intentional. But then, something shifted. Across the aisle stood a tall man in a uniform, gray shirt, black epaulets, and a supervisor badge embroidered neatly, Carter Dean. Donovan recognized the type instantly: rigid posture, hard gaze. Dean's eyes kept returning to Donovan. Not with curiosity, but with calculation. Donovan didn't respond. He kept his head down, pen in hand, underlining a phrase: decision-shaped legacy. The aircraft rumbled forward. The safety video played, but Donovan didn't watch. He was already analyzing something else: the weight in the air. Dean moved along the cabin with trained efficiency, checking compartments and exchanging hushed instructions. But his eyes never strayed far from Donovan. Then came the drink service. Dean made his way down the aisle, offering beverages to each seat with robotic cheer. But when he reached Donovan, there was a pause. He looked at the seat number, then at Donovan, and simply passed by. Donovan closed his notebook. "Excuse me," he said calmly. "I'll have a sparkling water, please." Dean hesitated, visibly uncomfortable. "We're prioritizing those who've already made requests. I'll circle back." "Of course," Donovan replied, tone unwavering. He wasn't surprised. The omission wasn't accidental. It never was. He looked across the aisle and saw a white-haired man in 1D watching. The man gave him a small nod. Donovan returned it, silently. The plane climbed. Donovan unfastened his belt and stood. The first-class restroom was just ahead. But 3 steps from the door, Dean stepped in his path, hand out like a traffic sign. "Restrooms for coach are in the back." Donovan paused, measured. "I'm seated in 1C, he said, slowly. Dean gave a half-smirk. "Let me see your boarding pass." Donovan didn't move at first. The silence grew thick. Then, with restraint, he turned, walked back to his seat, and retrieved his pass. When he returned and handed it over, Dean scrutinized it like it might be fake. Eventually, he gave a shallow nod. "All right, but we've had issues before. Best you use the back. Keeps things simple." Donovan's expression didn't change. He took the pass back, nodded once, and returned to his seat. He didn't look back. Now, his notebook remained closed. But his mind was working, quiet, deliberate, efficient. This wasn't about a restroom anymore. It was about something far older. Donovan reached into his blazer and unlocked his encrypted phone. He opened a private app used by only 3 people on Earth, an internal executive platform used by Omni Vista Holdings. He sent a message. "Initiate internal review. Real-time incident. Log observation tags under Polaris Air. Begin pattern trace." In Chicago, Gregory Lane received the alert. He was already on his second phone, a biometric-secured device, before he even responded to the ping. Within minutes, he was logged into Polaris's HR system, employee evaluations, and complaint matrices. Dean's name popped up 4 times in the past year: profiling, conflict, and subordination. All closed internally. No formal action. Greg tagged the files for escalation. Back in 1C, Donovan received the update. Pattern confirmed. Proceed. He closed the phone. Polaris Air didn't know Donovan Chase was the largest private stakeholder behind Omni Vista Holdings, which in turn controlled 22% of Polaris Air. Through silent partners, shelf firms, and voting agreements, Donovan had power buried deep within the company's structure, power activated only when conduct thresholds were breached. This moment was one of those thresholds. At 37,000 feet, while most passengers sipped wine or flipped through magazines, Donovan Chase wrote a memorandum. Subject: Conduct violation, emergency review trigger. Summary: breach of equity clause 9A.12. Incident during active flight. Shareholder escalation in motion. Immediate leadership review required. He sent the file through a secondary channel. It would land on Greg's desk and bypass standard chain of command. Within seconds, Greg was activating contingency protocol. Meanwhile, Dean kept moving down the aisle, oblivious. Donovan's power didn't require announcement. It moved like a shadow, quiet until undeniable. The captain's voice came over the intercom. Due to traffic, we'll be taxiing to an alternate gate. Please remain seated until further instructions. Donovan checked his watch. Right on schedule. From the cockpit, the co-pilot frowned. Gate 19R? That's near the executive tarmac. Yes, the captain murmured. That's where they told us to go. In the cabin, Dean poured coffee for a man in 2A, chuckling about fishing. But tension was building. Something about the flight felt different, off-kilter. Evan, a junior attendant, leaned into the galley. Why didn't you let the man in 1C use the front restroom? Dean glanced up, annoyed. Don't like surprises. But he's first class, Evan said. Dean smirked. Doesn't mean he belongs. Evan's jaw clenched. In the cockpit, a priority transmission landed on the captain's console. Hold position at gate. Await formal instruction. No deplaning. Minutes later, a black sedan approached the aircraft. 2 airport security vehicles flanked it. The plane stopped near the perimeter gates, far from terminals. The cabin door opened. A man in a gray suit stepped aboard, clipboard in hand. Flight Supervisor Carter Dean, he called calmly. Please step forward. Dean blinked, mid-pour. Excuse me. Now. Passengers stared. Whispers spread. Dean stammered, then reluctantly walked toward the exit, guided by 2 silent security officers. Before stepping off, he looked down the aisle. His eyes met Donovan's. Donovan didn't blink. He didn't smirk. He just watched. As the cabin door closed behind Dean, the murmurs returned. Donovan stood slowly, adjusted his cuffs, and reached for his duffel bag. As he walked forward, the man in 1D whispered, What just happened? Donovan looked at him. A correction. He stepped into the light of the tarmac. The sedan waited, door open. Dean was inside, still confused. Donovan didn't pause. He took out his phone, typed 1 line, and hit send. Phase 2. Execute restructuring. Back in Manhattan, at Omnivista's tower, Greg stood before a screen filled with blinking red profiles. 5 Polaris Air executives flagged for complacency, negligence, and policy shielding. Julian entered the boardroom at 9 a.m. sharp. We're not firing one man, he said. We're removing a culture. Within hours, resignations began. In the news, headlines broke. Polaris exec shakeup stuns aviation industry. But Donovan didn't need credit. He watched from his office, calm. Later, flying to D.C. aboard a newly restructured Polaris flight, Donovan sat quietly in seat 2A. The crew didn't recognize him. They just treated him with respect. That was the change he wanted. As he stood to use the restroom, a young attendant stepped aside with a smile. This one's yours, sir. Donovan nodded. Thank you. A boy in coach whispered to his dad, That's him, isn't it? His father replied, Yeah. That's the man who changed everything. Donovan heard, but didn't turn. Let the story spread quietly. Let dignity become standard. Let change fly on its own. And somewhere above the clouds, a new chapter began.